Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
While the Calgary Flames played better today, they still fall by a score of 3-2 to the St. Louis Blues. But before we talk about that, we start this stream like we did last year. It is Remembrance Day today. So we start off with this. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amongst the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved, and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up your quarrel with the flow, take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from falling hands we throw the torch, to be yours, to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. That, of course, by Canadian soldier John McCrae in Flanders Fields. As I said, when the Flames did their Remembrance Day ceremony at their last home game, we could be in a worse place where my anger is purely on what the results of a hockey game were. And let's be honest, this is probably me being more positive. I don't know if Denim Man is watching us today, my housemate, but I was not a happy camper through 20 minutes here. But for the second of the 40 minutes, let's call it 35, the second 35 minutes of this game, I got much happier and was much more pleased with this effort that the Calgary Flames put into today. So I don't think I'm going to tear a strip into ownership or this team necessarily, because I can only be so positive when the Flames manage to score 2 goals after 7 periods of play. Darren Haynes actually did the math over on X. Of course, the post-media member, former writer for The Athletic, graduated out of MRC, now known as Mount Royal University. By his math, the Matt Coronado goal snapped a stretch of 96 shots that took place over 185 minutes and 40 seconds of hockey action. And that's without goals on a goalie. Of course, the Flames did score an empty netter in that Nazem Kadri Memorial game that Anand hosted here on the channel the post-game of. But you can only be so happy if you can only score 2 goals, breaking your scoring slump, but you're scoring 2 goals against the 31st place in this league. Now, I'm going to try and remain positive. I know that's been the comment that I've seen a few people talk about in chat, that I was a little too negative. I'm going to try and wring out what positives we have in this game here today. Evening, Anand in chat. So we'll start with the... I'm going to talk about something, because you know that the Flames are struggling when you're going into St. Louis. You're the 32nd ranked team. They're the 31st. But when sites like Money Puck and other statistical analysis that are doing this, whether for improving of just general knowledge or in the case of bettors, whatever you choose to believe the reasons for these sites are, when you're starting the game at a 55% chance to lose to a team that's only 1 place ahead of you in the standings. But anyways, I digress. Flames head in to St. Louis. Yes, This is a matchup that the Flames should have been up for, as I said on Blue Sky and X. A match against the team that beat you out by 1 point last season to prevent the playing over your head Calgary Flames from getting to the playoffs. But for some reason they weren't. And it was really slow starting for the Calgary Flames. Tell me if you've heard that one before in regards to the men in red. And it started with a man from just outside of Calgary, Dylan Holloway. First goal on the power play after Sam Honzek took a minor for a trip that I thought was confusing. Obviously, if you're watching the Sportsnet feed, Kelly Rudy actually thought it was going to be a power play for the other way for the Flames. No, ended up being a penalty. Flames can't kill it off. Dylan Holloway shot from the point. I thought it was tipped. Oh, it was. Yeah, it was Justin Falk with the shot from the point. Tipped by Holloway. Suter also gets the assist. 1-0 St. Louis. Was I upset with this one? Yes, as Denim Man said, it nearly broke me. He said it absolutely broke me. It didn't break me. I was upset. I wasn't quite fully broken yet. Yeah. Really confused on how that call ended up against the Flames. Seemed that both guys kind of got sticks between legs and maybe should have been evened up like we saw a little bit later in the game. Again, questionable officiating at best. But it's the NHL. We shouldn't come to expect anything other than that. Only league that's worse is the Canadian Premier League. Matthew Kessel then scored the next goal. Got a great pass from Sundqvist off to the races, but that's a young player in Ilya Solovyov that's maybe given a little bit too much freedom and playing a little too high up the lineup. You see him pinch in, trying to follow the Kadri Sharangovich Farabee pinch, gets caught, puck goes the other way, ends up behind Dustin Wolf. I saw so many people saying Dustin Wolf probably wants that one back. I don't deny that. Wasn't the best goal you'll ever see Dustin Wolf give up. But I'm going to quote Darren Haynes again here. It's really tough for Dustin Wolf to play every game knowing that if he's anything less than perfect, likelihood the Flames aren't coming away with 2 points. And you kind of saw him slump his shoulders after this one went past, as he knows that he probably should have had that one, especially when it's Matthew Kessel's second NHL goals. But again, it would be incredibly hard to be mentally resilient on this team, especially for the goaltender. So quote Darren on that one, and the Flames exit the first two periods down 2-0 as they've trailed so many games this year. But we all know that even with the Flames taking goal advantages in so many of these games, haven't necessarily been better. And this is when I really did break, was goal number 3. Nathan Walker, his second of the season. As he's trailing, there are 3 Flames between him and the puck. Obviously, Toropchenko puts it off the pads. Wolf trying to freeze it. And then Joel Hanley doing his best Miley Cyrus impression. I came in like a wrecking ball. Plows through Dustin Wolf. Puck goes right to the front of the goal crease. And Nathan Walker will never have an easier professional hockey goal than that. And if he decides he wants to play beer league after, he may not even get one there. And I know there's been lots of people in this chat. Shout out to Matt C here again. I know I've gone back and forth with guys like Matt C, Tokay number 1, about certain defensemen on this team. I'm done with Joel Hanley. Like, I think this broke me. There is zero effort, or there is zero exemplary effort from Joel Hanley to dive, jump, do whatever he can to not impact his young goaltender who's trying to freeze a puck. Jump. Dustin Wolf is not a tall individual. I don't think I'm shocking anyone when I say that. Do whatever you can to not knock over the guy whose only job is to stop pucks and does a damn good job at it. Joel Hanley to the moon 2025. But it's just so frustrating. Because what's our other option right now? Oh, yeah, it's Jake Bean, who we haven't seen in a few games. Maybe it's time to bring Jake Bean back into the lineup. The pain goes on and on. Yeah, Hanley can't get it. I don't expect Igor Sharangovich to do anything about this goal. Oh, less than enthused with number 17 in the red and white today as well. But from this point, give the Flames credit. They started to wake up, started to get off the mat a little bit. Maybe all you need to do is run into your own goaltender and cause a goal against to wake this team up. I don't know. But Joel Hanley's defense partner today lays off the play with a brilliant bounce pass up the boards. And Matt Coronado remembers that he has one of the best wrist shots in the NHL. Beats Canadian probably goaltender for the Olympics, no matter how much that hurts me to know that the best Canadian goaltender has led his team to a 31st place, or I guess they're now 30th. So a 30th place start about a quarter of the way through the season. Yeah, that's a great confidence builder going into the Olympic break. Beats him glove side. Matt Coronado, his 4th of the year, assist to Braden Pahal. Great job from Braden Pahal. This is a guy that's worked his way back into the lineup. Obviously, you never want to have someone have a benefit of an injury to one of your young future stars. But Braden Pahal, he said, I'm going to take this ball and run with it since we don't have another option. Unless we do call up Hunter Brustevich, who has one of the nicest passes I've seen in a long time down in the A today. I would have rather him be up rather than Daniil Maramanov, but I am not running this hockey team. Yeah, because he is the other option, because he just got recalled by the Calgary Flames. And I need to reread the waiver rules, and maybe we'll do that as part of overtime. I don't know if he has to re-clear waivers now that he's come back up to the team. I think it's a 30-day that he has to not go on waivers again. I don't know. But anyways, back to the game at hand. Only 30 or less than 30 seconds later, Rasmus Andersson takes advantage of a puck that's kind of just thrown into no man's land. Michael Backlund, good hard work along the boards. Rasmus fires on the wrist shot. Doesn't do the Rasmus stare. Didn't do the Razzie stare this time. Went over, celebrated with his teammates, and, good on the third line. It's a positive for Backlund, Honzek, and I think one of the guys who's actually been consistently okay for the Calgary Flames this year, and Blake Coleman. It's not enough for this Calgary Flames team. And I think without those 2 goals, we might have seen actual change begin to happen for this hockey club. Because I think if this team goes 72 hours without, or 72, 3 days, 3 games, I don't know why I went to 72 hours in my head, but 3 games of hockey without scoring a goal on a goaltender, I think the Flames might have been forced to not have Ryan Huska behind the bench. So do those 2 goals extend Ryan Huska's tenure? Maybe. Should they? In this man's opinion, probably not. But let's look at some of the other stats from today's game. Calgary Flames outshoot the St. Louis Blues by 40-31 margin. They do barely win the faceoff battle, which, hey, it's an improvement from losing 70% of faceoffs. Actually won 52% of the draws today. 48.1% on the other side. Flames 0 for 1 on the power play, and they obviously give up that early power play goal. Fairly clean contest, only 3 infractions called. Actually, that's not necessarily true. We had the The offsetting minors as well, which shouldn't have been offsetting. Like, how Adam Klapka gets that 2 minutes when Tucker has the interference and then is throwing punches back and forth, but only gets the interference call. Make it make sense, please. NHL officiating. But yeah, guys that I thought looked good today. We'll get into that as part as our period 2. Let's look at some other stats. Block shots. The Blues actually blocked 18 shots. So that makes the Flames go up to at least 58 shot attempts. Nearly a shot a minute in the game. I'm not upset with that. But the Blues, obviously, they're a bigger, more physical team. That's kind of their identity under their current general manager. Laid 25 hits, and they were even in takeaways at 6 apiece. Of course, now the Flames have fallen twice to the St. Louis Blues. Once they got goalied by Joe Hofer. And in this one, they finally scored after, not scoring in 3 games. Effectively. Only one time more will the Flames see St. Louis, and it will be the Flames hosting on March 18th. So I was listening to Sportsnet 960 on the way home as we go into period number 2 here on Game Over Calgary. Talking about, do the Flames need to put their 2 big offensively powered stars back together, as we've seen Nazem Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau separated for the last period of time. Can't be doing any worse than what they're doing. Nazem Kadri today, -2 in his 21-20 time on ice. And Jonathan Huberdeau actually a +1 on the night. I actually thought he was okay today. The Flames, though, however, when you're paying Jonathan Huberdeau whatever the amount is, he needs to be better than okay. As my Firefox decides it wants to crash, so I don't have chat up right now, folks. We'll get that back ASAP. But as long as we're still streaming, as long as you guys can still see me, we're certainly fine. Don't like that. Sorry, apologies, folks. Just having some issues with the computer here running our stream. Okay, we're back. Good. Where was I? Yeah, Jonathan Huberdeau, he was okay. Obviously wasn't overly flashy or overly effective, but was mediocre, but certainly not the $10 million man you need him to be. But on the other side of that coin, boy, oh boy, does Igor Sharangovich look like a failed experiment. And we're talking him up on the broadcast about how he had earned his spot on playing elevated minutes as the Flames are trying to find a goal to tie the game. I couldn't disagree more right now. I don't know if he needs to try different pregame meals for the next month and a half. Something's not right with Sharky, and it was quite obvious today. Nazem Kadri, invisible. Other than getting interfered with. And something I haven't said a lot this season. I actually wasn't impressed with Joel Farabee tonight. I thought he's been one of the guys that, just like Blake Coleman, has been perfectly fine on some nights and on a team that has been borderline unwatchable at times. But a rare bad game for him. And I'll go back to that conversation how I started this. Do we need to reunite Kadri and Huberdeau? I don't think that's a duo you need to look at reigniting. Or repairing, I guess. I think Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost just play better when they are on a line together. The former Flyers that didn't play together in Philadelphia, but that seem to have an innate ability when paired up together, but as people are joking on X and Blue Sky, the Chat GPT lines don't allow for them to stay together very long. And so that got me thinking, okay, if those two really need to come back together, what do the lines look at? And I think I'm gonna hit on this, your question, as I talk through this with everyone here. I think you need to put Kadri and Huberdeau together just for the fact of the matter that those two are your top two played players. Yes, they've had not a lot of time being successful together, but it was good at the end of last year. I think you have to go back to that well when your team can't score. And then I think you kind of have to either strap Connor Zary or Igor Sharangovich to that line. Because they've both been bad. Very bad, no good. And you need to start trying to get both of those guys, who are two very offensive-minded players, onto the same page at some point. So then let's look at what I think is the line two, which is Frost, Farabee, and as Anand you got into, I think you have to take Honzek off of the line of Backlund and Coleman. I'm going to talk a lot about Darren today, it would appear. I talked to Darren a little bit on Facebook the other day about, because I mistakenly said the Flames need to start ordering the numbers 9 and 2 in bulk rather than 7 and 2. Obviously thinking of Gavin McKenna. But we had to talk about Sam Honzek and how he's kind of been a little bit of a revelation this season. But how much of that is because he has the training wheels that Michael Backlund and Blake Coleman allow him to have? I think you put him a little bit higher up the lineup and say, it's time to see what you actually have. A little bit of a sink or swim moment. And if it starts to be that sinking feeling, maybe you drop him down a line, get him back to something he knows and has been relatively okay. I'm going to say that a lot today, folks. Then that allows you to have the Backlund bump we've had in years past. Coleman, Backlund, and the other non-Zary / Sharkey, if Sharangovich even gets into the lineup. I think that maybe makes some amount of sense. And then you have your fourth line of Klapka, probably Kirkland, and who am I missing there? Lomberg. How could I forget Ryan Lomberg? One of the best players consistently this year for the Calgary Flames, despite 2 text line 960 texts today. I don't get it. Because who am I missing in there? Huberdeau, Kadri. I'm just going through this in my head. Farabee, Frost, Sharangovich, Zary. Who did I scratch? Oh, Matt Coronado. Yeah, no, Coronado needs to find his way in there. So maybe it is rotating Zary and Sharkey more into that first line role, which is so weird. Especially because I think Matt Coronado might have been the best Flame today. Finally breaking free of what his slump is. And as I said, he has maybe one of the best wrist shots in the league. Hasn't been very good with it over the last week. And, you know, I kind of saw him shaking out his hand a few times today. You have to wonder if there is a soft tissue or a bone injury in the hand. Maybe that's one of the reasons we haven't seen as much from this young man to start this year. But yeah, there's lots of things that this team needs to go and figure out. And we have to assume that it is going to be a longer term stretch that we're without Martin Pospisil. I've heard he had returned. Actually, it was Anand that asked in the post game show, calling into Sportsnet 960. Traitor. But I heard him when I was off. doing something, listening to the post game show, that asked about Martin Pospisil and Ryan Leslie. No, not Ryan Leslie. The boys over at 960. Let's just call it that. Had said that he had started skating, but is no longer skating. So you have to think that's going to be a longer term injury. So maybe we don't have to work in the what happens when Marty's back, which is so unfortunate for the player and for this team. As Martin Pospisil certainly throws a wrench into things for both complacency of Flames forwards as well as having to keep your head up for the Martin Pospisil bad body check that seems to plague him. But anyways, I think it's time for the Flames to stop trying to be smarter than they are and stick with the simple lines. Allow the Backlund bump to try and get some of these guys back up to speed. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel, I guess. Because as much as the Flames text line for the other network seems to think that we can scratch a guy like Ryan Lomberg right now, he is the least of our problems. But we're going to head into period number 3. And before we do, we have something very exciting to announce. And I'm super excited to have this opportunity because Game Over Network is actually going to be hosting our first live stream game. Is it a AAA game streamed on our channel? No. It's going to be an amazing game, however, regardless of the level, because myself and Denim Man, who's going to work as my cameraman, we're heading down or up north to the Crowchild Twin Arenas, and we will be live streaming the game between 2 of the Calgary Inclusive Hockey Association's 3 teams. If you don't know what the Calgary Inclusive Hockey Association is, you can probably infer a lot from its name. But I'm actually going to pull directly from their website and talk a little bit about them. We're supposed to have one of their board members with me tonight. Unfortunately, couldn't make it due to some earlier commitments with work. But the mission of the Calgary Inclusive Hockey Association is to challenge existing norms and break down barriers in sport with a strong emphasis on equity and inclusion at all levels. They are committed to fostering a culture of mutual respect for every teammate, opponent, and community member on and off the ice. Through our actions, they proudly promote 2S LGBTQIA+ equality and strive to be recognized as leaders in acceptance and inclusion in sport. So what we are going to be doing is over on the Game Over Network main channel, we're going to be hosting a game, a beer league game with actual full commentary from myself. For those of you who don't know, actually, that is what I like doing. I do the Circle K Classic here in town after Christmas. I used to be with the Calgary Canucks organization doing their play-by-play. I've done stuff with the Okotoks Oilers in the BCHL and AJHL. That is really my passion. So for us to be able to showcase 2 teams that are focused on some of the things that are lovely in this, both for the Game Over Network and a positive influence in our community, we're so happy to be partnering with this club to showcase some of their games. So head on over to the Game Over Network main site here on YouTube. It's a 10:30 p.m. start, so I know it's late for a lot of people. Can't watch live. There will be a VOD if you're interested in seeing what we can do as this kind of trial run with the Calgary Flare continues. We're also looking at doing a game in December for them with their highest rated team, their most competitive team. And I gotta say, Calgary Flare have some pretty gosh darn fire jerseys. So take a look, and we'll head into period number 3. Is Ryan Huska on the hot seat? I think he has to be, because as I've talked about a few times on the show, there are very few things that you can change on a dime in the NHL if you're an owner or a general manager who's unhappy with the way your team's going. Especially with the number of no trades and no movement clauses that are within this system, or within like any NHL system rather, it makes it so hard to change players. Like, as much as I wish you could send away a bunch of the guys that are on this team that are underperforming, that's just not how it works. There's one guy you can change essentially at will, and that is the head coach of your squad. However, I don't know if this team's going to change just based on a single coaching change with how abysmal this Calgary Flames roster has performed. And yes, like, we have to admit it, the Flames missed 4 bobbling pucks in front of St. Louis goaltending or empty nets today. Like, some of that is 100% puck luck. The Flames are the lowest shooting percentage hockey team, I think, in the last decade, if I remember my article and stats correct. It feels like it might be time to flip the switch and say, I know we just extended it for 2 more years, but you might need to start looking for a new position. It's not that I dislike Coach Huska as a person. In fact, I think he took a very, very difficult job that didn't foresee a lot of people wanting into, and made chicken salad from not the most desirable cuts. We'll just call it that. Did this team play way over its head last year, and maybe some of that was motivated by Ryan Huska? I don't have a surefire way of saying yes or no. I can believe that maybe it was partially motivated by that. But for that to all come crashing down over the course of one off season, where the Flames didn't lose that many guys, from a year where we didn't necessarily, and we aren't hearing calls from inside the house like we did back 2 years ago. We aren't hearing cries publicly for players to be traded. We aren't seeing agents go on Twitter after games and necessarily throw the general manager and coaches under the bus like we have in the past. But at the other side of the coin, we aren't hearing much to back up the coach at this point. The other thing I heard today is Craig Conroy doesn't have a contract beyond this season. I know last time I did a solo show, we talked about Craig Conroy and how I believe that the drafting that he has done beyond round 1 with the Flames has really been finding diamonds in the rough. Truly kind of continuing on the legacy that Chris Snow left in finding these players in later rounds and finding guys that one day can turn into NHLers, if not for the Calgary Flames, for other squads. Because I really, really think that Conroy and co, obviously, he's just the head of the snake, he's the false head of the snake, if you are to believe what a lot of players, or a lot of fans and media necessarily believe is the Murray Edwards show. But I think he's done enough to keep his job. So, I don't know. It's tough. Obviously, because I was trying to seek this out. Yeah, because as we talked about, Alex Tanguay is kind of the guy that everyone's been circling in on as the potential next coach of the Calgary Flames, if something were to happen. And as much as I say that, because I don't think changing the Flames head coach from Huska to someone like Trent Cull, who is the other guy that's kind of had whispers that I've heard, I don't think that's enough of a change for this Calgary Flames squad. But I don't think you're going to be able to pry a guy like Alex Tanguay out of Detroit mid-season. So I guess maybe that extends Huska's tenure to a little bit later on, so that you're not playing a full season under an interim head coach even if that guy is an experienced head coach like Dave Lowry, who's standing right next to Ryan Huska in a lot of pictures that I see. So that's where my thoughts on that are. Obviously, we've got some comments in chat here about it. Direct quote from Coleman this afternoon: "You have to create offense from the defense." With that quote, I feel like Huska could/should be in the hot seat. This team has not been good defensively, I would argue, in the last 3 years. So if you are trying to convince me that this team needs to create offense from the defense, that would require a complete retool and building around Mackenzie Weegar as your guy of the future. It's, I don't know. I think that quote is incorrect because, I don't know. It hasn't worked. Huska has to be in trouble. This will be 3 years in a row missing the playoffs, and they've been trying to make them in all of them. The only way he keeps his job is if we switch to development mode. And even then, I would rather see a guy like Trent Cole get that opportunity. I think he did a better job developing a less talented Calgary Wranglers squad than Huska did. Hot sheet for sure, but it may be easier to list Flames who aren't in the hot seat. Matt C responding with that list is basically Devin Cooley, who, okay, that's kind of one of the craziest things. If we're going to talk about Devin Cooley's not on the hot seat, Matt, like, let's, you and me, I'm looking right into the camera as if this is an episode of The Office. All of us at the start of this season, we had the conversation. I had to go through the waivers to look through the list of goalies that were on that list. But for us to say the only guy that's not on the hot seat is Devin Cooley, who has gone from the head-scratching move for him to be the backup when game 1 rolled around to becoming into a goalie that is, I think he's still top 10 in save percentage, which is nuts. Kind of crazy. Flames have a long history of trading / finding for diamonds in the rough. A problem I think the Flames are having and have had for a few seasons now is a market for positions they badly need just doesn't exist. And this is why okay, we're going to go to overtime. We're going to go to overtime before we get through this. This is why the comment that Murray Edwards said about "I love this core" drives me mental. And by the way, after he said that, the Flames went 7 periods without scoring. Just keep that in the memory banks. Maybe that's why he loves the core. They aren't going to score, so we can get that guy, and I actually have a reason to pay for this team's roster for the next 5 years. Again, tinfoil hat all the way off. The Calgary Flames can deal Nazem Kadri and Rasmus Andersson. These are 2 players that there are 31 other teams that need. Whether you're another general manager or owner or whoever makes the decisions for your NHL team, whether you believe Nazem Kadri is a 2C or a 3C, he is the best available, bar none, on a team that is selling. Matt C. Cooley is number 1 in the league for save percentage, number 2 for goals against average. Mind blown. But let's go back to the 2 guys I'm talking about. And Rasmus Andersson, despite the fact that he's playing like he doesn't know how to play hockey sometimes, he scored today. We should ship him off as soon as people see that. Hey, he still can score the goals. He still knows how to play hockey. Had this damaged bill of goods. Because, as I've said, he's been a very polar player this year. If he's involved or engaged, he seems to be one of the best players on the ice. But we've seen when he's not engaged where he's the last guy skating back, despite the fact that he's a defenseman, or just giving pucks away with some pretty brain-headed attempts. He can just go high and off the glass and get to a line change. The Flames have players in theory that other teams want. If we are going to stick with this core and, blow things up and truly play for Gavin McKenna, the Flames have things that can gather assets. And that's a position not many teams that are at the bottom of this league can find themselves in. It's something that the Sharks were praised for with Mike Greer, taking that chicken salad made out of chicken refuse and building it into players that garnered third and second round draft picks. And look at where the Sharks are. Like, guys, the Sharks are coming to town on Thursday, and I don't think the Flames have a devil's chance in heck of winning that hockey game with how their top line is performing and the buy-in that they've gotten up and down that roster. Would I be surprised if the Flames stay in that one somehow by wizardry and Dustin Wolf or Devin Cooley bullshit? I wouldn't be completely shocked. But the Flames need to realize that there is less of a market for people to watch bad hockey than there is to be sold hope. I need to look up who said this. Oh, it was the former Raptors head coach, if I believe. You're either selling hope or you're selling wins. The Flames certainly aren't selling wins, so it's time that they sell hope. And whether that hope comes in one of the three top guys in this draft, obviously my heart is set on Gavin McKenna, my Lord's ransom for a guy that I did commentary for at the Circle K to come to Calgary and just save us. Or because we all know that it's not just a single guy in this NHL that changes things. You needed both McDavid and Draisaitl to get the Edmonton Oilers out of the decade of darkness. You needed both Crosby. Well, you needed Fleury, Crosby, Evgeny Malkin to allow the Pittsburgh Penguins to stay the Pittsburgh Penguins. If the Flames can start selling the hope that when that new arena is built, we are going to fill it with incredibly talented hockey players that we gain through incredibly high draft picks, I think that'll net Murray Edwards a lot more money in jersey sales, in kids coming to watch these players develop. I think that'll generate a lot more money than 2 postseason games will. But yeah, we are in overtime. I will take some more of your questions, comments, and concerns. Anand saying Wolf is excellent, playing their defensive style was enough. Anand, did the score change? Well, I wasn't watching. Did we win this game? Defensive style wasn't enough. We had Joel Hanley running through our own goaltender. Defensive style is not enough. When Jake Bean is someone you're considering cycling into your defensive roster, you can't generate offense through your defense. You're my friend. I value your opinion. Don't get me wrong. We are not generating offense through the defense that the Calgary Flames have right now. Is Dustin Wolf a mighty piece? He is, okay, here. Out there analogy for Conrad. Dustin Wolf may be the queen on your chessboard, but you don't have any of your pawns. The bishops, they're taken. Your rooks, who are supposed to be defending your kings, they're crumbling. Wolf may be your queen, but without the rest of the pieces, it's still awfully hard to win a game of chess. How did this team get 96 points last year? Played way over their heads. Little voodoo, wizardry, and magic. We should play Cooley more. We should play Cooley more. I agree. Because Dustin Wolf is, the sophomore slump allegations have surely been beaten. at this point, because he is still playing very, very well after we take out that small sample from the start. But at the same time, if Cooley is playing as out of his mind as he is right now, play him. And hey, maybe do something with Devin Cooley at the trade deadline. Because I know that there's a team in Toronto that just lost another goaltender today. And if you have a Devin Cooley who is coming into games, playing them, keeping those numbers where they are, bye-bye. I'll play Ivan Prosvetov for half of the season. I'll take second round, third round draft picks for your rental of a backup goaltender. Don't do what you did with this guy. Don't hold on to him so long that he decides, I'm going to go be a free agent. Get your assets. Great asset. Great, great asset. And that's exactly what Matt C. If Cooley keeps up, is he a potential trade chip? His numbers are crazy. Exactly what I said there. He can potentially turn into an asset if you handle the situation correct. And hey, like as I said, they don't all need to be first rounders. And hey, or maybe you can trade him for somebody that's down someone's roster board a little bit at center. Take my center, please. The Red Wings need a center, always. If Montreal needs a center, like all the rumors seem to be pointing to, that Nazem Kadri could end up there. Sure, we'll take a first round back. We gave you one for Monahan. You might as well give us one for Kadri. Oh, I'm sure Kay will see that and just absolutely want to kill me. Anderson will end up in Vegas pairing with Hannafin again. With what assets? What assets does Vegas have that the Calgary Flames want? I still think there's the highest chance that he ends up in Dallas. And if that comes with the Robertson being there instead of a first overall, am I super happy with that? Not necessarily, if you're truly all the way on board the team heavy armored vehicle that's used in war. But you get a player that's in a good year, probably one of the, I don't want to call him a top 10 goal scorer, but I think he can be that. Let's call it top 15. Maybe that's a way you try and restock the cabinets a little bit, because who knows, you could maybe flip him too down the way. Wouldn't be surprised if the Sharks are the favorites in that game. Yeah, the game coming up on Thursday. I don't think that one's hard to believe. Denim saying, come to our crumbling arena where we struggle to play hockey. You're not wrong. Held together with duct tape, hopes, and dreams, the old Saddle Dome is. But yeah. It will be me again on Thursday as the Calgary Flames take on the San Jose Sharks. 7 p.m. puck drop in that one, as we've talked a little bit about that. The Flames just need a coaching staff that isn't just Daryl Sutter GX. For those of you who don't speak trading card games, Stewart's is assuming or making the connection that the Calgary Flames are just a somewhat improved version of the Daryl Sutter, and that Huska is coaching the same system, but just with a shinier, balder head. Edmonton might have a shot at McKenna. They've got Connor McDavid. They'll find a way out of this. I remember 2 years ago when they were the worst in the league and we all thought they were out of it. Anyone want to remind me how that season ended? With them crying into their Fruit Loops, of course, coming in second, but the Crumble Dome, as people call it, yes, the Calgary. I always still want to say the Canadian Airlines Saddle Dome, which is like really weird because that's from back when I was a kid. Yeah, the Pengro Saddle, or it's not even the Pengro Saddle Dome anymore, Conrad. Boy, oh boy. The Scotiabank Saddle Dome is certainly a piece of infrastructure. Hey, it's better than McMahon Stadium. And I think that's just about it. I'll give a couple more seconds. But as I do wait for those last few seconds, just want to give a big shout out to Cavalry FC. I said last week they're heading into the finals of the Canadian Premier League. They come up just short. I'm sure everyone's seen the video of the icicle kick that tied the game against Atletico Ottawa and then losing in extra time after a 45-minute snow shoveling break because they had to clear off the field in Ottawa. For those Cavalry FC players, I don't know if anyone of them will ever see this. You battled your hearts out all year through situations that a lot of teams would have crumbled through. Big shout out to you guys. To a personal friend, Tommy Wheeldon Jr. Tommy. It's going to suck not having CONCACAF football, but you need to be proud of the work that you and your lads did. To anyone that's watching here, please go out to Atco Field, support the Canadian Premier League. It's a lot of fun. You won't feel the same about the Silent Dome as you will after being to a Cavalry FC game. But with that being said, remember, if you're still up at 10:30 p.m. and you need something to help with your insomnia, my voice will put you to sleep. I'm just kidding. Over on the main channel, go check out the stream. Hopefully it's a sign of things to come here for us here at Game Over. And once again, thank you so much to everyone who showed up. To Matt C, to Anand, to Toke, to Denaman, even though you're sitting just across the hallway. You probably wouldn't sleep regardless. Toke, glad you showed up. To everyone watching, there's also something I've also forgotten to do for a lot of these games and almost did today. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe. In a world that has been so algorithmically driven, please do everything you can to help us. Share it. Tell us to your friends, your boss, your coworkers that you like, that one coworker that you hate that always, kind of has the weird smell. If he likes the Flames, I guess you can share it with him too. Please help us grow this increasingly fun brand. Even if the Flames aren't fun to watch, hopefully you have fun here in chat. That's it. We'll see you again on Thursday. Hopefully you had a great Remembrance Day if you got it off. Even if you didn't, take a moment before we head to bed to thank whatever you believe in that we get to sit here in a time of peace and stress out about the Calgary Flames.